Hello, fellow mech warriors, Mage Leader here. It's been something of an eventful week. I got a new video out, been doing some live streams, things have been popping off here. In the background of everything that I've been working on, the different projects, we had packs come out, looks like. And ordinarily I wouldn't cover a lot of Catalyst stuff. I kind of ignore them on a daily basis, but we have a new product line coming out for BattleTech. And that's always interesting, so I figured I'd take a look at it. BattleTech Aces is this new thing that we've got coming out. And I've been watching this demonstration here on YouTube where they describe the game system and what it does. So, Aces, based on my understanding from watching this, it's not a new game system. It is basically a plugin for Alpha Strike. That's you know, if you play Alpha Strike, this is kind of a new way to approach the game. What it is essentially a series of cards, decks of cards, which you attach to a mech in your force, or all the mechs in a force, in order to give them automated behaviors. So, if you want to have one of the mechs on the table control itself, as opposed to being controlled by a player, you can use one of these decks to operate it for you. Let me go back. They were showing off the cards at one spot here. There we go. So, it's not the best resolution video, but you can kind of get an idea of it here. So you have a flow chart here that you follow, going from left to right. And I watched most of the stream. I believe I've got it right with how this works. There's different markers and things that all indicate different conditions. It's basically a program for your mech. So you see here, aggressive. If the ideal enemy is activated and within 18 inches, then do all this stuff here in the priority order that's listed. And then if this condition is not met, you move over to this one. If there are any enemies within 30 inches, and then you do all the stuff on this flowchart. If there's no enemies within 30 inches, then you do the things that are in this column here. So it's a bunch of if-then conditions, like in basic programming, in order to determine what this mech is going to do. There's different roles. You can see this one's called a brawler, and you assign the role to whatever mech you want, and then it will behave in a certain manner. On each turn, you draw a card off the top of the deck, and then you do what the card says based on the conditions that are on the card. There is a lot of symbology on this card. So, I don't have the rulebook in front of me, so I can't really determine what all of these means. I assume that's line of sight, that's not line of sight. No, something, it's not high enough resolution for me to see what that is. In 12 inches, maybe that's a firing symbol. Occupy woods, if available. Line of sight only to target. So, not taking other lines of sight into account. It's a little unclear to me at this stage. It's still pretty early on. And if I had the rule book, it would probably make a lot more sense as to what all these symbols mean. There's a lot of symbols. It's a lot of that. So, if this looks confusing to you, I'm sure it would make more sense with a book. It looks pretty damn confusing to me. There's a lot of symbology here. Honestly, like, the whole product kind of confuses me. I don't understand why you wouldn't just play a game against yourself or another person. I think that's my big takeaway from this whole stream, because, like, you can do this kind of thing, and it's kind of neat. It's a neat idea to have an automated mech on the field. That's the same card from earlier. It's not a terrible idea if you want to play by yourself, to have something kind of running itself. I'm curious were people asking for this? Was this something that people really were, were crying out for? Like, oh man, I really love playing Alpha Strike, but I just wish that I could play it against a deck of selective behaviors. I'm curious as to what the appeal is, apart from novelty. Because, like I said, it's not a terrible idea in isolation, because, I can't think of all this many times where I've seen this kind of system before. I don't know, maybe you guys have. But I don't know why you would want to. If you're playing Alpha Strike, like, a good chunk of the fun of Alpha Strike is playing it with another person. Pretty sure. At least it is for me. Maybe I'm just out of touch with what the kids are into, but I can't think of a single time where I've seen anyone play a game of BattleTech and be like, oh, this is really cool stuff. I just wish that I wasn't playing it with another person. Or people who can't find another person to play with. I might be able to see something like this, because the enemy's going to behave differently depending on the situation, and it will kind of imitate having another player there. It's just kind of odd to me. You'd have to be somebody who just either can't find or doesn't want to find another person who plays Alpha Strike. It's very confusing as a choice of change in the game system, because nothing else changes. It still plays exactly the same as Alpha Strike. You just have cards that determine what the mechs do. Otherwise, it plays exactly the same. So, one of the things that the guys were talking about in the stream here was the appeal of kind of having characters in your BattleTech game. So, like, a mech would play, like, if it's piloted by a famous character from the lore, it would have a certain set of behaviors where it would pilot a certain way and do certain things in different circumstances. So, like, you don't even have to be playing against yourself. You could be playing a game against somebody and throw one of these out and just have one of your units be like, oh, this one's driven by Michael Searcy or Victor Steiner Davian, or, any other famous BattleTech pilot that you want. Like, any mech warrior, just like, yeah, this one's being piloted by this guy, and so he's going to do this on this turn, and go through the flowchart there. Though, I mean, honestly, like, if I had one of those characters in my force, I just want to pretend to be that character. I'd like to just kind of embody them and think, well, what would he do in this situation? And then do that myself. You're relinquishing control of one of your own units to, essentially a paper computer. It's very strange. Maybe this is a kind of new wave in tabletop that I just haven't caught up with, or I don't know, maybe this is a thing that's been around for a long time and I'm just weird, but man, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. The position that Catalyst is in right now, with their Kickstarter shenanigans going down and, failing to deliver on a bunch of stuff, the international shipping kerfuffles that they've been through, putting out a new edition for a game system that they already have, it's strange to me. It's weird that they choose to throw so much support into Alpha Strike as well, where, people are coming to them a lot of times for, new minis or maps or things to use with classic BattleTech, and then this is what they choose to put out next, is more Alpha Strike stuff. I'm very curious what you guys have to say about it. Like, is this something that you guys were asking for? Is this some kind of new movement in the BattleTech space that I wasn't aware of? Like, were people just kind of clamoring and crying out for this? Do you think it's cool? Am I just weird for not really seeing the appeal? Because I'll be honest, like, if you want to play a game of Alpha Strike, let's say, for example, that you've played against people and maybe you're not very good at it. Every game system takes time to learn, right? You're not very good at Alpha Strike yet. You want to get better. You want to practice. Well, the best way to practice is to play against another player. But if that's too, embarrassing for you, you want to save that until you're a little bit better at the game, the best way to learn is to take two forces, neither of which you care all that much about, and play against yourself and try to win as both players. It literally allows you to get inside the opponent's head because you are the opponent. Doing that with yourself is a better way to learn the game than having enemy mechs go through this flowchart that's partially determined randomly. I'm pretty sure they draw these cards in sequence every turn. Or maybe it's just one and they carry it all the way through. I don't actually remember off the top of my head. But it's interesting to me that this is the single-player option for BattleTech. I didn't know there was demand for single-player BattleTech. Maybe there was. But that's pretty much my reaction to this. Is this the new product line that's really gonna do it for Catalyst? Is this gonna be their next big thing? They're talking about it in this stream like it's gonna be a big product wave. They want to put out tons and tons of these card packs. So, what do you guys think? Is this the next big thing, or is this another Urban Mech LAM box that's gonna be put out and then forgotten about within 5 minutes? Let me know down in the comments. I'm genuinely curious as to what your thoughts are. That's basically all that I've got for right now. So, I'll leave you guys to it. And until next time, this is Mage Leader, signing off.